Chapter 4. Now. The sun was setting a deep crimson color out in the valley. At the top of the plateau on which Chateau de Bellevue, Jade peered at the ominous red giant as it furiously protested laying to rest, seeming to cast all of its pristine vista into flame, orange and red reflected on everything. She didn't quite shield her eyes, finding herself transfixed. It was the last sunset of July, known by those in the know as Beltane. In the olden times, it was a fire ceremony. Beltane could mean shining and brilliant, bright fire, sunwise, or any permutation thereof. Sometime later, it became May Day. Jade had been told all about the extravagant holiday by the high court princesses, which it appeared her lot in life to have to babysit. Except that she felt she hadn't been doing the greatest job of it, as the rich bitches kept disappearing. She thought about how long she'd been here, how long 5 weeks in ancient France really was. She missed her room inside Purge, the fresh food, the steam room, cold drinks, clothes, her clothes, clean, fitting perfectly. Jade had been gathering information as best she could, stranded while Mr. Blue ran off after the Marquis, the man who owned Chateau de Bellevue, and was hosting all the wealthy, beautiful, influential young ladies with excessive coin, was called simply the Marquis. The solstice, the murder, the mind wipe, the power absorption. Still being stranded here? Still. Jade cringed. All of this was apparently at the behest of the Marquis. The powerful but mysterious Magni had somehow known these women to be dabblers in the old ways, aka witchcraft, Wicca, magic, what have you. Dangerous, though. Jade had been informed that 1767 France was not the best place and time to be openly practicing any occult deviance. Behind her, the elite countesses all finished setting up their altar. A simple circle made of black ash, white chalk, and salt, laid out on a hard rock bed. The clearing was perfect. Underfoot, exposed, worn stone was enclosed on all sides by a natural ring of trees, a grove circle. Symbolic items and personalized talismans had been carefully crafted, set in specific places for use in the oncoming work. Athame, pendulum, Helene tan, holy water, silver pentacles, a golden chalice, an ancient sword, a gnarled old wand made of mistletoe? Jade remembered what some of this was for, what some of it was meant to do. Almost all her life, Jade had found a mysterious preoccupation with the occult, magic, what some call the macabre. Now, she would see it for herself. Again. Hopefully, this time, it won't go as badly south. Jade allowed herself to wish that none of the high ladies would get amnesia this time, or that none of them would be kidnapped and murdered via life force drain. This time. The moist heat in the air weighed heavy, crickets loudly announcing summer's halfway point as Jade looked at the immense building itself once more. The mansion was ablaze in the evening burgundy and amber glow of the sunset. By now, Saber was inside, prepared with the paradox trap, deep down in the secret sub-basement of Chateau de Bellevue. Jade didn't particularly like the new and not unattractive time traveler chick that Mr. Blue had met whilst out hunting the Phantom Marquis. But she also knew the Time Lady was only trying to help. Or, not Time Lady, Time Agent, as Mr. Blue had shouted for clarification. Mr. Blue was watching from a far distance. Jade knew that even if he wasn't present, he would be keeping an eye on her. It was about to begin. The ladies formed their incantation circle, instantly ignoring Lady J. Sylvia Esquire III. Om saxum, saxorum, indorsum, montum, oparum, da. They were chanting as the sun cast its final ray. In adalabildum, inquantarum, draconis! Jade watched as the fire erupted from the middle of the circle. Unnatural, violacious flame sputtered upward, grasping the sky. The Marquis would be here soon. Then, she knew it would be at midnight. The summer solstice ceremony? She wasn't wrong. And, in the warmth of the evening, all became quiet as she entered the oak grove. Jade watched the same women and young ladies she'd been dining with and trying to avoid the last week as they spoke of their latest gentleman caller, while setting up sacred and ancient magical ceremonial items. Meh. She'd seen weirder. A grip on her shoulder tore Jade's attention away. Mr. Blue absently smoothed his platinum blonde hair, stepping back. Sorry, love. Didn't mean to frighten you. You didn't frighten me. You startled me. Jade took a deep breath. Is there a difference? Shut up. Jade quieted the stranger in the cobalt suit. Indeed, the rich magical witches focused their energies, silently meditating on what they wished their collective desired outcome to be. One began to intone loudly, in some sort of ancient language. Come. Right then, Mr. Blue took Jade by the elbow and escorted her away. She was quietly trying to protest. What are you doing? I thought you wanted me to... Gather information. Investigate. Yes, well, quite. The pair were far outside the hallowed grove, the full moon directly overhead, casting long shadows about the ancient forest. They were in the hunting fields of the Chateau de Bellevue, pure wilderness at midnight, with witches. Awesome. Jade felt a chill despite the moist, hot air of June. See, this has been happening a while, Mr. Blue finally continued, his wild azure eyes careening around like marbles as he rapidly looked around at everything. After Purge brought us here, I did a bit of research. This year is tied to your timeline through Valentine. He gathered paradox temporal fuel from you and your ancestors here, just as he did in New York in the 1920s. No, wait. Jade held up a finger. Mr. Blue placed his hands on his shoulders, giving her his full attention. Luckily for us, Valentine wasn't able to kill her. Your ancestor, J. Sylvia yada yada. Not yet, at least. Which is something fairly uncomfortable for me to say. Jade sighed. She picked up Mr. Blue's hands by the wrist and let them drop away from her. Unfazed, Mr. Blue pressed buttons on a polished silver watch with a tiny holoscreen display. That's new. A gift. Ooh. From Purge? No, Saber. What's Saber? Not Saber what? Saber who? Mr. Blue corrected. Jade shook her head. What? Saber is a time agent. I set out a distress call while we were crashing. She answered. Saber's a chick. Mr. Blue straightened his cerulean tie, smiling lightly. Oh, yes, a time lady. No, a time agent, which is also a lady. Gotcha. Not a time lady, an agent. Mr. Blue was dreadfully serious about the difference. Okay, Jade yelled, her hands up in surrender. So you drugged me away from the potential crime scene just to tell me that we're still not done with Valentine's shit? No. He spun to face the ceremony a few paces away as an explosion of surreal flame from the inside grove of trees sent brilliant waves of amethyst and sapphire light to illuminate the nearby area. The owner of the Chateau de Bellevue is called the Marquis. No one knows who he really is, what he looks like. What we do know, and what Saber has helped me to uncover, is this Marquis hosts these get-togethers with these lovely, financially endowed, well-learned ladies of the rich bitches, Jade interjected. Rich bitches, yes, if you like. Mr. Blue lost his smile as he stared ahead, light dancing on his face. This Marquis is somehow getting them here to perform various arts not in secrecy and shame, but out in the open.
on his private estate. It's quite the lure, and once they get there, they disappear, one by one. All the others forget they ever existed, a weaponized amnesia of sorts.
So, how is he doing all this? Why? Mr. Blue focused, gathering a stern expression. He put his hands in his pockets, began stomping back to the ceremony.
Let's go find out, shall we?
They returned to see a phantom rising out of the supernatural flame. It was in the form of a human, yet entirely composed of this magical violet fire. It walked to one of the young priestesses, slowly grabbing her. Suddenly, the two were transformed into one bright ball of magenta heat and fire, which blasted straight back to the forest and estate of the chateau, into the building, into the basement. Mr. Blue booked it. Running afterward, he was forced to keep raising his feet ridiculously high over the grass. The result was a clown's gait, perfectly seen in the moonlight. To make matters worse, he kept screaming into his watch, "What's happening? What is happening?" Inside the basement, Saber was taking readings with a palm device by which, all accounts, looked like a plain piece of clear glass. Psychic tech. Her boss equipped her well. Here it was. Incoming. The bright blast of flame phased through a wall and lingered right in front of her over the exact spot she'd located a base temporal chasm in flux. The ball of strangely colored fire disappeared into the ancient marble floor. The room returned to normal, moonlight streaming into the openings and cracks in the basement. Mr. Blue ran in, panting. He missed having the limitless energy of post-regeneration. Not quite used to having two hearts yet, either. "You made it here fast," Saber said.
"For an old man."
He stretched his back. 122? Don't be serious. Saber tilted her head, readjusting. Older. Mr. Blue gazed at the time agent. She was tall, slender, and elegant. Yet she wore a strange futuristic bodysuit, black and durable, had her hair pulled back. No nonsense. She was intimidating, direct and ruthless when she looked at you with her very old, very dark eyes.
"What readings have you got, love?"
the Time Lord inquired. He was in awe of her unique equipment. "You haven't known me long enough to call me love yet, Capeziolo Necavez Traveler."
"Wait a beat. How you know my name? And why that particular modifier yet?"
Saber rolled her eyes, a faint smile on her face as she pocketed her psychic invisible computer. Jade entered, dress torn and hair askew, dirt on her face. She saw her time traveler in blue, in the bowels of the musty stone basement, next to a severe-looking woman. A strange, futuristic-looking Lara Croft type with a ponytail.
"Jade!"
Mr. Blue shouted gleefully. "Keep your voice down," Saber scolded him. "Okay, so what just happened?" Jade asked, almost gleefully trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. Anything to kill the dull boredom that awaited in the daylight. She hesitated at a thought that if all the ladies disappeared, she would be the last one left. Easy pickings. "A temporal schism has erupted here under Chateau de Bellevue," Saber replied, hands on her hips. "Your companion's time machine locked into these coordinates after he blew up the solar system." Mr. Blue winced. "I received a distress call. I was dispatched to advise and provide aid, if necessary, to restore order. We knew the moment Valentine took over the Nexus Point that he would have to intervene, but you chose the easiest way to deal with it. Make everything explode," Saber finished. Jade grimaced as she stabbed the stranger in blue with her eyes. He ignored her look, opting to continue.
"And all this is tied in with the Marquis? He's been absorbing these women's essences and time energies, appearing as a phantom flame, stealing them and building power."
"To add," Saber nodded, "this is culminating into a severe temporal crisis. The next ceremony is July 31st. The readings I've gathered state that the amassed energy will overload upon absorption of the next victim."
"Which?"
Mr. Blue blurted out spastically.
Which will give us the perfect amount of power needed to reboot Purge, seal off the temporal juncture, erase Valentine's paradox emboitment, and restore the Nexus Point Earth. And, you know, all her friends.
Sounds too damn easy.
Jade folded her arms. Nah, love. Safe as houses.
He patted her on the head.
Jade slapped his hand away.
Ugh, you're doing the whole...
Saber stared at Mr. Blue, up and down.
British thing. Bob's your uncle, right?
So!
He clapped his hands together.
You, pointed at Jade. Stay here. Keep an eye on things. Next ceremony is in a few weeks.
A few weeks?
Jade intoned angrily. Right, yes. A nice relaxing retreat in a scenic French countryside. Just be ready on the 31st.
It looked like Mr. Blue was going to try to hug her,
but
Jade just put her hands in the air and stepped backwards a few paces, then turned and made her way back up to the bedroom. Her echoing footfalls on the stone floor faded into the distance. Saber turned to Mr. Blue. You need to tell her.
Tell her what?
Don't play stupid. Saber shook her head. That girl should be 18. She's 24. And she doesn't know her own powers are killing her. She looked at him very solemnly. As is traveling with you?
Yes. Thank you. I am aware.
He almost spat the words at her, his face creasing with rage. His piercing blue eyes darkened. Why the hesitation? She has the right to know. Why doesn't she? Mr. Blue turned away from her, his expression of mystery. Because I'm not ready to let her go.